The TMJ-TMD conundrum is real and has been puzzling the dental and medical professions for decades. This is the TMJ-TMD Demystified podcast with Dr. Tony Urbanic, where we'll connect the dots between TMD symptoms and the actual cause. We'll tackle common TMD misconceptions and educate you, the practitioner, about a simple, tested, and proven TMD solution that has already provided relief to thousands of patients, while helping practitioners build an additional source of income free from insurance control. Welcome to this episode of the TMJ-TMD Demystified podcast.
Hello, TMD warriors. We are gathered here in beautiful Franklin, Tennessee for the next episode of TMD Demystified. I am Tony Urbanic. I am going to struggle through this episode today. My voice sounds a lot worse than I feel, so I feel pretty good, but I can tell you that it must sound a little froggy to you after listening to other episodes. But we're going to cover this. It may not be as long as I usually do run, but we're going to talk about a very interesting concept as it applies to TMD, TMJ, as to help you orient yourself. The purpose is to orient yourself as to why TMD, TMJ has been such a confusion for so long. I have mentioned it multiple times on other episodes, but I'm going to be specific, and focus on this one concept, which really, in my opinion, has driven the whole problem, conundrum, confusion regarding TMD for the better part of 70 years. And that is, there was a big lie about TMD that was perpetrated by the dental profession, specifically dental education and dental schools. So the title of this episode will be The Big Lie About TMD, TMJ. The Big Lie About TMD, TMJ. So not to leave you hanging unless you've already listened to in another episode, a prior episode or so, where I mentioned this particular issue. But the lie was very obvious and very, very wrong. And I literally can't understand why this was overlooked and portrayed by the educational system, the dental schools, for so many years. And that is that the TMJ, temporomandibular joint, is such a unusual, different, special joint. The problem that began with that concept, which was taught to every dental student in the country, maybe internationally, which is totally not true, but because that was the thought process out there that was given to every dental student, anyone who wanted to treat or study or evaluate TMD, temporomandibular joint disorder, of the TMJ, temporomandibular joint, started out from the basic knowledge that the joint was extremely unusual, extremely different. And because it was extremely unusual, special, and different, it was going to be hard to understand. Well, of course, if that's where you start out, it's going to be hard to understand, and you're going to try to make it complicated. Again, excuse me for my voice, but I'll struggle through this because I don't want to skip an episode, and I want to get this out, and I want to really get my listeners to understand this. And if you really understand that fact that you've been misled by a big lie that the TMJ is so different, then you can begin to understand, you will follow along the logic and the science leading to the actual understanding of the solution, which has everything to do with inflammation in the joint. But the point is that if you start out thinking it's a really complicated joint, unlike any other joint in the body, that's what I was told. And I have verified this with hundreds and hundreds of dentists that I have talked to about the fact that they were instructed one way or another in their dental curriculum at one time or another that the TMJ was extremely complicated, extremely different, extremely special kind of joint. And it's not. It has a special name, but that's just a name. And it does have two characteristics which are somewhat unique in the body, but that doesn't make it different than any other joint in the body. And the similarities far outweigh the differences. I mean, by a factor of, literally 1,000 to 1. And I don't exaggerate 1,000 to 1 because every joint in the body operates the same way. It is located in a different part of the body, but they all have one way or another, synovial fluid. They have synovium. They operate with the same pathophysiologic mechanisms, the same endocrine mechanisms, the same inflammatory mechanisms, the same mechanisms going on within the brain stem once the joint becomes damaged and stimulates the brain stem to take action. Those are all the same. And then the cellular components going on within inflammation within the knee or the elbow or the temporomandibular joint, they are identical. So it is not hyperbole for me to say that the similarities of the temporomandibular joint to any other joint in the body far, far outweigh the differences. Now, what's the big difference? Well, as you may remember, the temporomandibular joint has two components, which I talk about frequently, basically the rotation and the translation of the temporomandibular joint. It rotates for the first opening. The first half of opening, first 25 or so millimeters, is a rotation, and the last 25 millimeters or so is a translation down the temporal eminence so that you can get fully open to roughly 50 millimeters, varying between 48 and 60 millimeters, 50 and 60 millimeters, depending on age and sex, is 25 millimeters of rotation and 25 millimeters of translation will get you open to 50 millimeters. And that is somewhat unique. It's the only thing that's really unique about the joint and the name of it, because a hinge joint is called a ganglimus hinge joint, and a sliding joint is called an arthroidal joint, arthrodial joint. So it's gangliomo-arthrodial joint, gangliomo-arthrodial, both types. Ganglio-arthrodial joint is what the TMJ is, ganglio-arthrodial joint. Again, excuse my voice. And that is really the only difference. And that's just a name. That's just a name and the concept of rotation plus translation. But everything else about how this joint operates is the same. And no wonder that when you start out thinking it's totally incomprehensible, that you start coming up with theories like the myofascial, fascial, functional, dysfunctional temporomandibular joint theory. And it was written about back in the early 70s. And it was a theory thrown out there without a whole lot of science behind it. Muscles don't have pain sensors. Muscles do not have pain sensors. The pain sensors are in the periosteum. Nociceptors, pain sensors, nociceptors in the periosteum. And when the muscles get a signal to tighten up because the joint is inflamed, that signal is generated by the brainstem, the central nervous system, and says tighten up. and the muscles tighten up of the muscles of mastication, and where the muscles of mastication attach to the bone, it stimulates the nociceptors, creating headaches. Inflammation near the ear canal, external ear canal, can cause feelings of ear pain, ear ache, when there's no problem with the tympanic membrane. When the signals from the brain stem, central nervous system, says tighten up the jaw and then the neck, the second most common symptom of TMD is neck pain and upper back and shoulder pain. When it goes further, tighten up the head, tighten up the neck, tighten up the upper shoulder girdle, and you get all these strange pains that rotate between different sides at different times under different circumstances. But the pathophysiology of the whole process is the same as the hip or the knee. So that is the summary of why that was the big lie. And it started out, and everyone agreed on the big lie. It started out in dental schools. And I haven't researched out. It was like, why did they have not enough time to teach some real science? Did they just want to take a big swipe at it and repeat what they were taught in their dental school? I mean, I discussed this in great detail. I presented a simple 7-minute presentation in 2018 to the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering and Medicine in Washington, D.C., at their meeting to begin to sort out why TMD was such a conundrum. And I made a presentation literally announcing just to take a look, asking, almost begging to just take a look at inflammation within the temporomandibular joint, and that this joint was not so different than any other joint in the body. And I've talked on this before, and that announcement and literally almost a pleading 7 minutes just to take a look at this aspect of it was ignored. And to my knowledge, is still ignored. It blows my mind. And I guess I think it had a lot to do, my uncovering this had a lot to do with both my experience as a dentist in dental education, my experience as a trained cell biologist and gross anatomist with a degree in cell biology and gross anatomy, medical degree, familiarity with orthopedic surgeons and orthopedic surgery, because tennis elbow and TMD is the same disease, different joints. But it all started out with the big lie. The TMJ is so special, doctor, you'll never figure it out. And from there, it just went downhill, and to the point that now the only thing that is routinely done or tried to be routinely done is treating symptoms, via botulinum toxin, Botox, dry needling, heat and cold therapy, TENS units, all kind of machines, myofunctional therapy, surgery to the nth degree, which was given up years ago by almost all oral or maxillofacial surgeons, but all attempt to treat symptoms rather than attack the problem itself, which was inflammation within the temporomandibular joint. And non-steroidals work very nicely on inflammation for a short period of time, but that is why they really don't apply to long-term treatment of temporomandibular joint problems. But the whole thing was started and generated and continues to be generated out of dental schools. And all the dentists that I have talked to, the hundreds and hundreds of dentists, they all shake their head and say, yeah, that's what I was taught in dental school. It's very special, very unique. And that's pretty much all they said about it. So if you really want to treat the problem successfully and quit doing one of two things, either totally avoiding it for your dental practice, which is 50% of the dentists, close their ears, shake their head, and say, I don't want anything to do with TMD because we know nothing works. They're the most honest group of the 100% of dentists. The 50% that say, I don't want anything to do with it, it's a conundrum. It's a big black hole. No one knows what to do. And then the other 49.9% who want to make a night guard. I had 2 patients yesterday. That was the treatment that were given to them for quite some time, and given a night guard, which makes no sense at all about doing anything, whether it be the theory behind it keeps you from clenching or grinding your teeth. That's not true. Can't be true. Or that somehow a night guard put in your mouth decreases inflammation within the joint. Doesn't happen. And all kind of other theories about why a night guard might occur, but the dentists give a night guard, 50% of them give a night guard, and say, here's your treatment, and I hope you don't come back. And then there's the 0.1% that consider themselves TMD gurus and do all these symptomatic treatments that are not effective, but it sounds good and plays a big game and allows them to, game the insurance companies to try to get payment for it. And I stick by these statements because I've observed them. I've observed all this in multiple sites, not just Nashville, throughout the United States for my entire career as an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. So I bring this issue to the forefront. I confront it head on. I am more than ready to document what I say, to produce the actual solution for TMD, which is a solution which decreases inflammation within the temporomandibular joint. And those of you who would like to join this movement can contact me at tony@tmjservices.net. I welcome comments and I welcome criticisms, and I'll be happy to get into a civil conversation with anyone who would like to discuss it or debate it, for that matter. I mean, I may learn something that I have not stumbled onto yet, or I have not had the experience with yet, and I'm ready to do that. But frankly, I'm on a mission. After treating personally over 4,000 people successfully and needing to disseminate this knowledge much, much broader in the dental community, and hopefully starting out sooner or later at dental schools, or quit teaching the big lie. The TMD is such a special disease, and the joint itself is incomprehensible just because it has a really funny sounding name, gangliomo-arthrodial joint. Gangliomo-arthrodial joint. I think that's really what stuck out in everybody's mind. They all try to, when they say, oh yeah, it was a different joint, then they try to pronounce gangliomo-arthrodial. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, I apologize for the sound quality today. Actually, I feel much better than my voice sounds. Hopefully by next Tuesday, by the next time that I'm ready to record an episode, it will sound much better. If you would like to learn more about the Urbanic device and protocol and an actual real solution to the problem, which is predictable with a independent university study, FDA cleared and patented, you can read all about it at our website, which is www.urbanictmj.com. Urbanic, URBANEK, TMJ.com. I look forward to comments. I look forward to your communication. And I look forward to the next time, next Tuesday morning, when we'll pick another topic and I will discuss all aspects of TMD Demystified.